Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the MLG Anaheim StarCraft 2 competition. We're getting ready to go into game number 2. Both of these players are ready. We're going to start it off. You guys having fun here today? I think that's a yes.
I definitely think that's a yes, and I hope you guys will be just as loud when the game goes live, as the second map is going to be played on Frost. Now, Nate, you already mentioned it in the start of the series. Just 2 weeks ago, these two players played against each other in a qualifier for a different tournament. Polt won that series 2-1, but viOLet in all 3 games showed 3 different strategies. First game was a very early bailing all in. The second game was just a little more macro-oriented, like the last one, but then with more intention in taking the fort and less with dealing a lot of economic damage in the mid-game, which is like a pseudo 3-base all in. And there was also this Roach Hydra play, or just a big Roach attack. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see viOLet bust out a completely different playstyle here in Game 2.
Yeah, the thing is, when you look at the second map that we're playing on, which is Frost, it really lends itself well to the Zerg player in the later stages of macro games, especially if you get cross spawns. So viOLet might have a better opportunity to play safe, although King Sejong Station isn't necessarily bad for that either. It's just maybe Polt can't get the drops around as easily on this map.
And I really think that the spawning location on this map is going to be extremely important for viOLet to even decide how he wants to play. Because on a horizontal spawning location, you know, if you would go for a big roach shove, it's a little easier than doing it cross. It's harder for Polt to scout it, and it's a lot quicker for these roaches to make their way across the map. And we've seen it before, like even 2 weeks ago when we casted one of these games, we're like, I don't think this is going to work, viOLet. There is like 6 Marauders, there's a tank, there's a bunker, and it's like, well, GG. Apparently it did work, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see something like that. Either way, we're just going to have to rehost the game lobby real quick. That's why it's taking a little longer, but it's going to be fun, and I really wonder what he's going to do.
You bring up a very good point, though. viOLet has shown a variety of builds in Frost based on those spawns. Doesn't have to be the macro game as I mentioned. If he does get the close spawns that you mentioned, suddenly those early roach pushes that viOLet's known to make every now and again. And we've seen lots of Zerg players do it. Lots of Zerg players love to. The roach push has just gotten increasingly popular over the last minutes. I think it was Hyun that was the first. Like this is almost OP. He said it's so good.
Yeah, they had a lot of success with it for a while, and of course never changed the winning team. Yeah, if you think about like the next player, the loser of this series will go up against Trap. Who of the 2 of the CSN brothers, because I think it's safe to say to call them like that, do you think has a better chance against Trap?
I mean, when I look at who could beat Trap, I think Polt's Terran versus Protoss, most everybody here could agree is just godlike. viOLet's EVP is something I haven't had a chance to see too much of in this tournament between all the games that we've been doing. So I'd have to favor Polt at least versus Protoss.
Yeah, well, but it could also mean that we would have a dream overall final if it would eventually be Polt versus Trap. But definitely getting ahead of ourselves here as game number 2 is being rehosted right now. It will be on Frost, and in a few seconds will be loaded in. viOLet versus Polt, game 2. It's funny as well because both of these players are MLG champions.
Yeah, I mean, Polt's trying to hold the title. viOLet wants to take it back, and it would be the second MLG Anaheim specifically in a row. And Polt, you got to wonder if we get into that grand final again, is he going to finish the tournament off with Hellbats like he did last year?
Back then, the grand final last year was actually extremely cool. Back then it was Polt versus Hyun. That was a TVZ final. That's still possible that we'll have another TVZ, but of course it won't be Hyun. Either way, we are loading into Frost right now for game number 2. Are you guys excited for some TVZ? All right. Are you guys going to cheer again for every single unit that dies? Every Zergling, huh?
Every Marine will get the honor. We're loaded in, guys. It's game number 2. We've got cross spawns. And our first player in the top left, down a map, it is viOLet. Trying to bring things back against his Terran opponent. Of course, in the bottom right, from Cooler Master Storm, it is Polt.
All the way in the bottom right, Nate, and that means that we will have cross-spawn locations, which I think is Polt is pretty happy with. Like in general, in the old days, we would say like, it's better for Terran, you know, to spawn close because then they can just keep pushing and eventually they'll be fine. But I really feel that Polt is confident in late game ZVZ because viOLet, as fantastic as he is, I don't feel that like super late game, the 5-6 base madness is necessarily his biggest strength. I wouldn't go as far to say that it's a weakness, but I feel viOLet's unpredictability and his craziness and his fast-paced games are a better strength than like going 5-6 bases and eventually having to spread creep all across the map and maybe even getting ultras and 3-3 upgrades. I feel that viOLet prefers to win games before that phase in the game.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because against a player like Scarlet, I would say these spawns definitely favor her in terms of a longer game. But in this map, if Polt's farther away, those potential early roach attacks are much farther away as well. And that really allows him to set up for what he likes to do. And even this game, we've seen Polt specifically bust this out a bit more. Hatchery first is standard from viOLet, but he's going to go for the gasless expand once again.
Yeah, then he's probably going to go for a little bit of Overlord hunting as well, as he likes to get 2 or 3 Marines out and then just walk across the edges of his base and try to see where there is an Overlord. But I couldn't agree more what you said. Sometimes it's much more about the player that you're playing than the actual matchup. There are plenty of players out there who will say like, I'm really good in PvZ, but I don't want to face this player or that player just because certain styles don't go well against each other. And I think for Polt, it's actually quite okay to spawn cross position against viOLet, but you know, could be wrong, of course, Nate.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have to see. If viOLet is, as we've known, can switch his styles up quite a bit. So this drone comes in, he spots the command center being placed, but...
Did he see the Marine? I don't think so, right?
There's no Overlords really close enough to hunt, which I guess is nice for him, but he might be waiting.
Look at
as viOLet at least knows where he's spawned now.
But this SCV in the left bottom side of the map, I thought it was going to go all the way in, and it could have seen the Overlord. Perhaps it's still going to see an OV in the middle. I know that Polt wants to try. I know he's going to try to go for it. So far, not a single extractor has gone down, by the way. And that is something that's a little bit interesting, isn't it, Nate?
Yeah, there's a potential always for viOLet to bring the aggressive plays, but gasless on this map, not really a bad thing.
Gives me a 1-1 Roach feeling.
We've seen it time and time again from the best. I think Scarlet and Hyun, like all the big Zergs we've seen play ZVT in this tournament have done it. So.
Such a useful little SCV scout over here for Polt, because of course this game he did not open up with the Reaper, so he wouldn't get the same information as he normally gets. Everyone's getting excited already. This SCV right now is going to produce either a lot of noise or he will have a silent escape. Uh-oh.
You know, the Marines are making their way across the map, Roddy. They're going to try to save him.
Saving Private Ryan, the Marines. No.
Oh, he's at the tower.
No. Oh.
He's free.
Ryan will live for now. Well, that's a good thing, Nate.
That SCV has had the most intense 30 seconds of it. The most intense 30 seconds any SCV has ever had.
Yeah, he has stories to tell. He's like, man, I had all these people cheering for me. The craziest dream. Made my way across the map.
And he's still looking for Overlords. Polt is being very aggressive with these Marines. He's going to find one at the bottom, but it's just out of range. Wait, can he can't see it. Okay, that's surprising. Well, Overlord lives for now.
All right, we see a bunch of extractors go down in a natural from viOLet at 5 minutes and 40 seconds. These Marines really want it. Wow. Do you think it's good? Yeah, I actually think he's going to get it, right?
Marines.
No. Oh, one guy. Yeah.
Making the plays. Overlord taken out. The cheer for the death of the Overlord. I feel like we got a crazy amount of Polt support here today.
Or people just really like seeing stuff blow up.
Amen.
This is America after all, right?
You've learned well, Roddy. Starport's going to complete soon for Polt. He has a Marauder on the way. I expect to see a Viking, but you mentioned this earlier. viOLet opening gasless, moving into double extractor. The lair is on the way. I would not be surprised to see Evolution Chambers, a Roach Warren, and that big potential move into the 1-1 timing. And it's, there's the Roach Warren, Kev.
Every now and then, Nate. Every now and then I'm up to something. But of course, Polt has scouted this early on. He saw there was no speed opening from viOLet. So there's a good chance that he immediately will play this out a little different. He too is afraid. He will remember that series they played 2 weeks ago. He knew that he died against 1-1 Roaches despite being relatively well prepared. So this time he wants to be extra prepared.
There's a cool adjustment that Polt's made to the way that he's opened up in this game because he killed that Overlord. And if you see that, he killed some Zerglings. There's the tears. But he delayed the Viking. He's actually got this medevac faster, It's moving out by itself, probably to try to maybe drop these Hellions into the main base. But since he killed the Overlord, he knows that viOLet can't scout him. He doesn't need the Viking as quickly. And if this medevac can do a little bit of damage, it slows down viOLet's ability to make those roaches over the course of the next few minutes. He's got a couple minute window before that 1-1 is done.
viOLet already with 20 free supply, but he still fires up 2 more Overlords. And that is a huge tell that tells us he wants to make nothing but roaches for a little while. And like you said, normally you want to keep these Hellions alive. Normally you just want to deny creep to Mars. Now you want to kill some drones, because all the drones that die means viOLet's going to have to choose either drones or roaches. If he remakes the drones, that he might lose over here.
He's moving it in. These drones lined up a little bit, trying to run away. But Polt's just trying to slow down. He knows it's not about this first few minutes. It's about delaying the attack that's going to come afterwards. The Hellions were denied access into the natural. The medevac's still skirting around, and he's going to poke this third hatchery. Didn't kill a crazy amount of drones, but it slows him down a bit.
Wow, the medevac got picked off over there by a Queen. That was perhaps a little bit sloppy. Very unfortunate for Polt. Really good news for viOLet. There are still 4 Hellions out there that he has to worry about. But of course, viOLet does know that he has been scouted. So now he does fire up 6 drones. Currently we're looking at 14 roaches. That is a reasonable amount of roaches, and that is definitely a number where normally you want to do something with all those roaches. But I do not feel that it's the amount that he needs to break Polt on the other side of the map. But then again, we're always wrong when we talk about roaches breaking stuff. So
roaches make miracles happen sometimes, Roddy.
I believe in a thing called roach, and so do you.
I do. These Hellions trying to run in towards the third base. Every drone killed is pretty nice for Polt at this point, but viOLet, he's good enough. We know that there's a potential. He just fires up his 2-2 since his lair is done. Could move into something crazy. We've seen Hyun especially favor that style, but Polt, he's going to get everything else set up. He's been building Marauders, he's been building siege tanks. These are the core units that deal lots of extra damage to these roaches, and if viOLet doesn't fully commit with them, he really shouldn't be able to break Polt. Polt has what he needs to defend.
I don't think he wants to fully commit. There's one more drone.
Polt even pre-pulling SCVs as these Hellions run in.
Actually, this middle line is pretty exposed. I do not think that these roaches should commit to anything on the other side of the map. This is going reasonably well for Polt. viOLet seems to be a tiny bit indecisive. What he can do with these roaches, though, is just deny Polt from going up to 3 bases, at least for a while. Now, Polt is not going to be silly and just like really expose his tanks and try to get that base as soon as possible. Polt knows that he's going to have to play this safe and careful, but if he does, then eventually he'll be in a really good position, because we know as soon as Terran gets closer to 170, 180 supply, suddenly you're a lot more effective against roaches and hydras than you are when you're like 135, 140 supply.
Yep, he wants to take this third base, going into a bit of a battle with these roaches. Of course, the Marauders are strong. Without medevacs, he can't afford to send them too much.
I love how he's doing that, though, with that tank back up on the high ground. It's just like, all right, come over here, roaches, and every single shot that the tank gets down is really nice. Of course, these roaches will still try to swing in. We don't see Burrow yet. We don't see Tunneling Claws yet, and I kind of feel like we sort of have to see that eventually, if he wants to stay on Roach Hydra. He's on 73 drones. We see the Hydra list going down. The first Hydras are in production. It's really awesome to watch viOLet play this style, but I feel in general Polt has a really good read on it, and Polt really makes the mistake of like moving out too soon.
Yeah, the most important thing you can do against this style is you need to be very patient, because roaches are deceivingly weak. And as you said, once you get closer to 150, 160 supply, straight up bio trades very effectively with Roach Hydralisk, as long as you're not caught in a really tight choke point. But the 2-2 upgrades are completing for viOLet. He's been getting these Hydras out. He's getting his Hydralisk range. And I like to see, I think he killed the Viking. He just decides, okay, now I can spread Overlords again.
Viking's actually still there, it's just not really working. I would love to see an infestation pit go down there and see him go up to Hive, unless he wants to win with just all... Does he have... No, he doesn't have drop. For a second I thought like, okay, there we do see the infestation pit go down, because he's making a ridiculous amount of both roaches and Hydras. 2-2 is about to finish up. Polt doing a really good job in getting a couple of these roaches for free.
Yeah, it's been pretty nice. The Overlords are going to continue to spread, but, the 2-2 has just begun for Polt.
Oh, Hydras?
And
nope.
Scary, close. The creep spread for viOLet is actually really nice this game, too. He has a straight path over towards that south watchtower.
Units lost resource tab is incredibly even so far, as 1,500 and 1,506 resources have been lost on either side. It will all come down to the first engagement. But once again, normally it's really funny, because normally the Terran wants to be active on the map, wants to make stuff happen. No, you don't want to make stuff happen. The ball is in the Zerg's corner when they go for the composition of the roaches and hydras. We even see pathogen glands being researched. That's kind of cool, Nate. It's not what I thought he would just fire Hive up immediately, but if we see a bunch of Infestors in the mix, it can definitely make things very exciting. But once more, tanks are fantastic against every single unit that viOLet currently has.
That's right. These Bio Forces poking at the tower, taking a bit of an engagement. Nothing super crazy, but Polt's got a really nice number of siege tanks on the map. He's closing in on 6, 2 more on the way, and as he gets maxed out, it becomes more important for him to try to push. This drop's going to hit the top right base on the way for viOLet, so he's denying some economy. But, you know, viOLet really hasn't been harassed too much this game past that initial Hellion phase.
Exactly, and that's not like it's his 4th base, that's his 5th base. So losing that in this phase in the game, he wasn't really able to saturate it anyway, because you need a lot of free supply when you want to play this army composition, because you need to win the fights decisively. Here we see the Medivacs being a little exposed. One will fall immediately, but viOLet knows that he can't run into all of these tanks, and even the sensor tower soon and bunkers. You know, for viOLet from this point on, you can say, all right, I'm not going to break him on 3 bases until I get Vipers, as we do see Hive being fired up right now. I just want to make sure that he doesn't get 4 bases, and by the time that he wants to get 4 bases, that's when I want to fight with my Vipers.
Yeah, these Roaches and Hydras have done such a good job for viOLet. There's 3 big things to note. The creep spread and Polt's, how good his army is. The thing is, when you're playing versus Roach, Hydra, Viper, you need the tanks to deal with the Roaches and the Hydras. But once those Vipers come out, Blinding Cloud gets really...
He might be able to intercept that Medivac on the top side of the map. The 3 Infestors are making their way across the map, by the way. They could potentially land some big fungals in the middle of the map. One fungal will land and connect a little bit, but nothing crazy just yet.
It's the benefit of this creep spread. This drop in the top right will get cleaned up, but the creep spread is so far siege tanks. If you try to push out on this, as soon as viOLet sees the tanks, if they're not sieged up, the Roach and Hydra Force with these fungals is going to do a lot of damage, and he's continuing to move in. The tanks are lined up behind this force, though, but the bio army is dying so fast. viOLet's closing in, just needs to keep a good spread. He's got a nice arc on this army.
Yeah, but it's still a little bit too much firepower in this Terran army, mostly because viOLet didn't have the majority of his forces over there. I love when Polt is moving out. He's pushing creep back. This is when he's taking his fort base. Vipers are close. The Hive has finished up, so if viOLet really wants, he can start building them one by one. And obviously that would be fantastic, because then he can use the abductability on these siege tanks and pull them forward. This is a key moment in the game. Polt has to be so careful, and of course viOLet doesn't want to take a bad fight against all these tanks, because there is no running from tanks. Once you're close, you're committed.
That's right. He's been trying to hold on to this tower, but now the Infestors are in the back. He's moving in. Okay, some of the Roaches going to step to the right, trying to focus on the individual siege tanks. Polt's bio running forward. The Fungal's not really doing too much, and these Medivacs have really helped these Marines chew through this Zerg army.
Wow, that was a decisive victory for Polt. As you said, the Fungals, they kind of whiffed. One of them connected with a tank and a Medivac, but that was about it. These Marines and these Marauders survived that fight, and now Polt is taking control of the Zelnar Watchtower, and above all, you can say that for now, this fort base is secured. +3 missile attacks, however, and armor as well, is on the way. Still no Vipers, though.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by the decision not to go for Vipers. The +3 upgrades are never bad in this matchup, and it's actually going to be an Ultra's Cavern.
Oh, that's a good fungal.
Tanks are trying to siege, but they're on creep. The Roaches stepping forward. Another fungal does land. Yeah. And even with how many Medivacs are, these Hydralisks attack so fast, but Polt, reinforcements are streaming in.
Yeah, the reinforcements have arrived, and these bio units will push viOLet back for now, but that was at least a good engagement for viOLet. He was catching that awkward moment when there is creep at your potential base.
The creep spread has been phenomenal from viOLet this game. It makes, like, creep hurts tank-based armies so much, and it's hard for Polt to push out because, I mean, the last couple engagements have been over just creep.
We see Ultralisk come in as well. These Hydralisks going to try to intercept these Medivacs. What a great
2
pick
Medivacs
off.
picked off for free by viOLet. Oh, man.
Polt is like, all right, well, I'm going to kill an Overlord, so...
Polt really hates those Overlords.
And he was secretly hoping there were 8 Zerglings inside, but wasn't the case just yet. I'm a little bit surprised because he doesn't have melee upgrades at all. He can, of course, fire them up after this, but you know, 0-3 Ultras, yeah, they're pretty good in tanking stuff. And of course, he has the Hydras behind them, so the Hydras will still push out a lot of damage. But a little bit surprised how viOLet is playing this, but with the phenomenal creep spread that he has, it might just work out. But once more, it will all come down to engagements.
Yeah, this is a game that Polt needs to play out slowly. viOLet has a lot of bases, but this army from Polt can still trade well if he can force the big maxed out fight that he wants, where he can spread the tanks out.
Really well done though by viOLet. He's sniping Medivacs left and right, and normally, wow, he's actually going to run in the SCV line, getting a couple of SCVs as well. Of course, not the end of the world for Polt, as Polt is kind of stuck on his 4 bases, and viOLet will end up losing a bunch of these Roaches and Hydras.
Yeah, it's making these big investments, trying to do damage. But look at the
Wow.
resources that viOLet has banked. His spires are about to complete. There's creep everywhere.
Polt can't catch a break. No fifth base for Polt, at least for a triple spire. What the hell is going on? You see that?
He wants a lot of Mutalisks, I guess. In the heat of the battle, crazy things can happen. He's going to build 17 drones and 5 Ultralisks.
Do you think it's a legit strategy to go for double upgrades and more of one of your spires to greatest spire at the same time?
That's too meta for me.
That is a real meta. Either way, Polt is doing a really good job in being all across over the map. He is going to snipe a bunch of hatcheries like we all know that he loves to do. Well done there by Polt, but oh my god, look at the production tab. It's like 2 spires, 7 Ultralisks, a Baneling nest as well.
This isn't your average production tab.
No, this is a very expensive production tab.
So +3 upgrades are finishing up for Polt. Bio just already has +3 attack. Those Vikings get picked up. This planetary fortress needs SCV repair Hydras. Trying to DPS this down. The splash is nice, but the SCVs, it's close. He's not going to be able to hold it. The 4th base for Polt denied. And this is getting really stressful because viOLet has a lot of hatcheries on this map.
What a great pickoff there by viOLet. Not a pickoff you expect in this phase in the game, especially not with Roaches and Hydras. But well, it worked for him so far. He still has a lot of money in the bank. His economy has been completely uncontested. Other than the drones that he lost early on, he has not lost the drone in like forever. So that's really well done. And slowly but steady, he is taking control of this game. I am particularly impressed by how he's spreading his army all across the map while playing Roach Hydra. Dealing with drops when you have 25 Mutalisks, you know, that's pretty nice. You just fly your Mutas around, you pick it off. Oh,
that's a sad way to go, right?
That is an unfair fight. That was not necessary either. At least that one Marine told Polt, hey, there are a bunch of Ultras on the map. Of course, Polt doesn't know how many. Now there are 54 Zerglings on the map as well. I think most of them will be morphed into Banelings. As viOLet, his macro has just been phenomenal.
I like that Polt's army is moved up to the top right. Move this army away from where Polt's retaken that southwest base. And he has reclaimed his center position base. So now Polt just wants to keep viOLet away from him. Let him build up this army. He's been mixing in a lot more Marauders. Picks off another hatchery. Denies the hatchery on the left side. Ultralisks are coming up, but viOLet's army not united just yet.
Things are going to get really crazy as we do see this one drop in the north side of the map should be taken care of. But the army supply for Polt is outrageous. It's 141. Now we see Greatest Spires being morphed as well. Of course, Broodlords are very fantastic against every single unit currently in Polt's army. But if Polt decides to go for a massive fight soon, that might be his best chance. Because his army is ridiculously huge. Is viOLet going to go for it? He can't engage like that.
Slowlings and Ultralisks are a funny combination.
Yeah, the speed did just finish up, and now we see Banelings morphing in the production as well. viOLet is just getting everything. Like his stack score at the end of the game in the result screen is going to be insane as he researched like every single upgrade in the Zerg arsenal.
Yeah, he's moving on though. He's on the edge of the creep. The Ultralisks are stepping forward. Fungals are thrown out, splitting the Marines reasonably well. But now there are Banelings in the equation. The Hydralisks giving great support from behind, and viOLet loses a lot of his army, but he kills a lot of these tech-heavy, these important units that Polt has, and viOLet's got 5,000 in the bank. He can go into whatever he wants after this fight.
Yeah, but what is he going to make? That's what I really wonder about. 14 Ultralisk is the answer of viOLet. All right, well, that's a cool way to max out. Suddenly, he's not all that rich anymore. However, if Polt keeps the pressure on, there is a good chance that he might be able to intercept a couple of these Ultras, as they will most likely spawn from every single hatchery around the map. viOLet actually lost quite a few bases, though. If you look at the bases that he's mining from, those were the bases that he has been mining from throughout the entire game. And this 4th base is pretty much the only one that still has a lot of minerals, because this one is running really thin, and the main and natural run out. That was a poor engagement for viOLet. He was able to afford it once, but not again.
No, this next fight needs to go very well from it. Ultralisk, Infestor, Baneling is a very scary force to fight with just Marine, Marauder, Medevac, but these siege tanks can give a lot of extra support. He's been anchoring himself. That's a decent fungal. Gonna hold these forces in place, and the Ultralisks will clean that army up. Polt's getting building armor as well, so his expansions are gonna be more difficult to harass, and one Marine continues to poke a hatchery until an Ultralisk kills him. He's a gunner.
viOLet has not scouted the bottom side of this map for a while. He might know that there is a 5th base, but I'm not actually sure. He hasn't seen that 5th base, and that's really bad news for him, because he might think that both players are just like not mining all that much now, but Polt is actually doing pretty good for himself. He needs to do something about that planetary, about that 5th base of Polt, because right now he's being outmined.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where this is a very powerful army, but he needs to be able to force the engagement. He can't take a fight without Fungal. And I don't think anybody wants to attack into this tank line. It's given Polt such a good defensive backbone, but that big drop in the top, Roddy.
Yeah, that's 4 medevacs full of units, and the entire army from viOLet is out of position. He has a lot of tech structures in his main and in his natural, so this is definitely something he has to deal with. And at the same time, Polt, of course, is going to try to deny the 5th base from viOLet. There are a few Ultras left behind, but I'm not sure if it's enough. The Fungo is fantastic, though.
Ultralisk ripping this army to shreds. The Marauders are still strong, but kiting now just one Marauder isn't going to cut it. The Ultralisks clean up the force in viOLet's main base, and what a back-and-forth game this has been so far, Rotterdam.
Why no Broodlords yet? Do you think he is afraid that he doesn't have time for it, or?
It's a really big map, and I think Polt, he needs the units that are a bit more mobile to deal with all these different pressures. These attack in the top side.
Wow, Polt, excellent map awareness all over the place. Polt is trying to take a 6th base during all this. viOLet has not been able to touch the economy of Polt for a while, and that is often a very bad sign when you're playing TVZ against Polt. If you're not destroying his economy, well, the Ultralisk Cavern is going to get sniped, by the way.
Very nice grab. Fungals are going to hold these medevacs and Marauders in place, but need to use a few infested Terrans to help finish these up. This is a nice pickup. Polt, he's got a lot of gas bank, but those minerals, man, he needs to keep trading effectively. Greater Spire is gone, so he actually got the spawning pool too.
Yes, he got the spawning pool, the Ultralisk Cavern, and the Greatest Spire. Fortunately for viOLet, he still has 2 other Spires, but I'm afraid that from this point on, it just doesn't seem like viOLet will find himself in a position where he can start attacking again without losing something. Now he starts attacking the 6th base, but he has not been attacking the 5th one for a very long time.
Yeah, he needs to bring the Ultralisks over. The Zerglings without the +3 attack aren't going to break a building armor planetary fortress. There's still this attack in the top right side, clean up a lot of drones. Picking up this planetary is definitely a start, but that base in the southwest just has so many workers.
The armies are actually interacting with each other over here in the middle of the map, and Fungo will connect with a couple of these bio units. I just feel that this is the type of game that Polt loves to play. As long as no one is harassing him, he can do this for days, and he's doing a really good job in slowly but steady crippling viOLet. He has picked up so many workers, picking up infrastructure, and above all, he's still mining comfortably of that 5th base.
Yeah, well, there's creep all over the 4th base, but still mining there. Ultralisk coming in, fighting off creep is quite hard with this. He needs to land a Fungal on these Marines, but the siege tanks are in the back. It's going to really help if he focuses on these infestors. That's an expensive loss.
Yeah, it really is. And off creep with all those tanks there, I kind of need Broodlords or Vipers to run into this. Or you must be like extremely rich, then you can just keep doing it with Ultralisk and Zerglings. But viOLet is not in a position that he can take a bad fight. He has a lot of money in the bank. He has also a crazy amount of free supply. I think he's just not sure what to make. He decides to go for 12 Hydralisk, which I'm a little bit surprised by. 15 even.
Yeah, this is a tricky situation because viOLet likes to have the mobile army, but unless he can keep shutting down these bases, Polt's army is slowly going to move through this.
This is not a fight he can take. There's so much army for Polt. Look at that army. It's 146 Terran army supply against 91 currently of viOLet. viOLet is trying to pump out as many units as possible now, but I really think viOLet is making a mistake and not building enough units while he is able to.
And Polt's army is just so solid. I'm starting to think maybe if that Greater Spire had been put to use, it definitely deals with the siege tanks well. But now, viOLet's going to rebuild the Ultralisk Cavern. He still had a lot of income, a reasonable bank throughout a lot of these fights, but at this point, it just seems like he's not sure what to do.
No, and I'm not sure what to do either. I'm not sure if I was viOLet now, what is the correct unit to make? He lost his Greatest Spire. How do you engage this army? Like on creep, I can definitely see the Ultralisk with a couple of good Fungals getting him. Look at those splits from Polt.
He's moving in. The Ultras taking a lot of the damage up front. The Hydralisks unleashing their high damage output from the back, but they're so squishy, Roddy. The Bio destroys this army of viOLet, and he's barely got any money left. GG. Polt takes the 2-0 victory.
Back-to-back MLG final appearances for Polt. Absolutely amazing performance by him. What a solid display of his TVZ. He's been playing so much TVZ over the last few days, and you can really see it. He looked in control of that series, Nate.
Fantastic play, a hug shared between two good friends after what was I'd say that's just an awesome second game of that series.
Yeah, that was really fun. I thought it was beautiful how viOLet was taking map control with his roaches, with his hydras, transitioning and trying to keep Polt in bay, you know, keep him off those 4 bases. And he was doing a phenomenal job for the longest time. But I think at a certain point he went a little overboard, dropping so much infrastructure and not really sure when to fight. And he didn't do anything about that 5th base. Then on a certain point he was rich, but he took a bad fight and he remade 14 ultras. But from that point on, he was not able to afford it to lose any units anymore because he couldn't really replace them. And he had 3 Spires, but in the end, what did he make of those 3 Spires?
You know, you made a very good point when we were loading into the map. Polt probably liked the positions against an opponent like viOLet because that late game scenario just kind of left viOLet with a lot of questions as to where do I go. And you know, you mentioned Broodlords, they're great versus tanks, but when you have a map with that much wide open space, how are you ever going to catch all the Marine Marauder drops running around?
Either way, I'm very curious to see what Polt has to say for his second MLG Anaheim final appearance. Of course, he will still play later today in the overall final, but he's guaranteed top 2 in this tournament. Alex, take it away.
Thank you, Kevin and Nathanius. Great commentary as always. Here I am with Polt. Let's make some noise for Polt right now. So you seem pretty happy right now, which is naturally, I mean, after taking a 2-0 victory, that's great. Can you talk me through, I guess, what's going through your mind right now after that victory?
Well, yeah, it's true. I'm really happy now, but it's just planned. So, and the one more planned thing is, I beat the guy, probably the next guy will be viOLet too. Anyways, I'll beat him and get the trophy again.
So it was a relatively, well, actually, it was a 2-0 victory, of course. Can you talk me through the series and maybe, I guess, your mentality during the series and how it kind of went for you as a whole?
He tricked me a lot because what I mean is he used to do Roach Hydra timing, but he didn't do it in the first game. And second game, well, it was kind of similar, but it was not an all-in. He prepared for the late game, and I don't even know, but he had a lot of resources. I killed his army again and again, but he's remaking again and again, and he used to go for Broodlords, but he did not. So I made some Vikings, and I tried to go for as fast as possible, but it was my mistake. I should have scouted more.
I like how you're criticizing yourself after a 2-0. It shows a really strong player. So nice job again, and we have an awesome crowd here, an awesome final setup. You're going to be in the finals representing CM Storm. Do you have any words for this crowd?
Unfortunately, people are tired of watching CVT and CVG the whole day. And another CVP, there it is, but at the end of the day, you will see the power of Terran.
Thank you so much for those words, and best of luck in the finals. And Nathanius and Kevin, back to you.
Thanks, Alex. And always cool to hear from Polt. Such a cool, down-to-earth guy, not letting the victory get to him. He knows he still has another very important series to play, but man, what a final we're looking at.
Yeah, we have 3 amazing players left in this tournament, but especially the guy that wasn't playing in this series. Like I said before, yesterday perhaps he was a little tired, perhaps he had to get used to playing in a tournament like this, which is really different than what he's normally into, but today I think he was showing his true colors. Traps looks extremely dangerous, and that is of course going to be our next best of 3, Trap versus viOLet. Man, I'm incredibly excited for it. If the games are only half as good as Trap versus Scarlet Game 3, I know that I'm going to enjoy it very much.
Yeah, awesome balance across 1 Terran, 1 Protoss, 1 Zerg in the top 3 here at MLG Anaheim. Guys, we're going to go to a commercial break before we bring our next series, viOLet and Trap, coming up next.